His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji is a monk, mentor and a spiritual author. He has done his electronics and telecommunications engineering from the Government College of Engineering, Pune. He subsequently served as a software engineer in a prominent multinational software corporation. He has secured 2,350 out of 2,400 in GRE, gaining the top rank in Maharashtra. Seeing the prevalent problems of stress, depression, addiction and overall misdirection, all caused by lack of spirituality, he felt inspired to dedicate his life to the cause of sharing the spiritual wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita under the aegis of ISKCON. He travels all over the world from Australia to America, giving talks on spiritual subjects in universities such as Princeton and Cambridge and companies such as Intel and Microsoft. He is the author of the world's only Gita Daily Future, wherein he writes daily a 300-word inspirational reflection on a verse from the Bhagavad Gita. Till now, he has written over 1700 Gita meditations that are posted on gitadaily.com and are read through daily feeds by thousands from all over the world and also many hundreds in Balaramdesh as well. He also answers the questions by seekers on his site. So it's just a brief introduction. So we would like to welcome Prabhuji by chanting one time Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Requesting the devotees, please come in time every day. The program will be there on every day. It's been posted on our groups and also it's been posted on our notice board here. So tomorrow Prabhuji's class will be in Gopal Krishna temple. And after that it will continue in here. On national days we will have a special class on morning itself, morning also, and then again in the evening as well. So requesting the devotees, please come in time so that we can utilize Prabhuji's association. And at the end of the class for 15 minutes we have question answer session. So those devotees who have any doubts and clarifications further, you can raise the questions at the end of the class. Our sincere request is kindly please keep your mobiles on silent mode or switch it off. And please come forward, so the devotees, when they come late, they can be accommodated. And please maintain silence and request the Matajis and Prabhujis, please take care of the children. They should not make any noise here. Haribol. So with this, we will hand over the mic to His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. My dear Lord, please guide us all so that we can understand your wisdom and how to apply it in our lives as we face life's challenges. Hare Krishna. So I'm grateful to be here with all of you today after several years. I have very fond memories of last time when I had come to Bahrain. I had spoken on the mind in Aila Gita. I had done a series of talks. So here I'm going to speak on the Mahabharata. And broadly, there's one theme I'll be discussing over the various sessions that we will be having. And that is the theme of Dharma. Every book has its own driving question. Generally, if you have come attend a class, you want to know what is the topic of the class. Hmm? And some speakers are very organized, they stick to the topic. Some speakers, they start with the topic, then they go in different directions. Similarly, if a book is well structured, it sticks to the topic. So if we consider the Srimad Bhagavatam, what is its driving question? What is? What is the purpose of human life? Yes, that is one of the questions that is answered there. But specifically from the context, what is the urgent question that starts the Bhagavatam? Shreya. The Bhagavatam is spoken between whom and whom? Parikshit Maharaj and Shukdev Goswami. And what is the challenge Parikshit Maharaj is facing? He's about to die. Yeah. And then the question over there is, what is the duty of a person about to die? And then it says that become absorbed in hearing about the Lord. Ante Narayana Smriti. Tasmad eken, with one pointed mind. Become absorbed in hearing, remembering. Shotavya kirtitavyascha smartavyascha ichchata abhayam. So we can say that there is dharma at death. Now at one level we can say that we are all near death. No one knows when we are going to die. At the same time, we also have to prepare for life. Every day, recently one devotee asked me this question. He heard a class where it said that every day we should think that today is going to be my last day of my life. And that will make us serious in our bhakti. And that is true what he said. If I think today is the last day of my life, I'll think, why should I go for my office? Let me stay in the temple only, or let me go to Vrindavan. Let me constantly chant. What will motivate me to do anything else? Now the thing is, we have to, normally we prepare for one contingency that, okay, I will live for 10 years, I will 20 years, 50 years. When I grow old, who will take care of me? Will I have enough funds? Will I have enough for my children? So in many ways, we prepare for life. We don't prepare so much for death. So the Bhagavatam's focus is prepare for death. That dharma of a person about to die. Now, if we consider the journey of life, if say this is birth and this is death, then if somebody is here, what is the dharma? At that time, that is the focus of the Bhagavatam. Now, this doesn't mean that it's not important for us, because we don't know whether we are near that. But the Mahabharata, its focus is that when somebody has to face life, at that time, while going through life, what is dharma? So Yudhishthir is going to become a king, and while trying to become a king, or while trying to even protect his own life, he faces many dangers. So dharma here, at one level simply it means the right thing to do. The whole Mahabharata is a search for what is the right thing to do. And we face many of life's challenges. We have our families, we have careers, we live in particular countries, we have social challenges. And at one level we learn how to practice bhakti, how to remember Krishna, how to come do sadhana. That's important. At the same time, our Shastras also give us wisdom about how to face life's challenges. One is how to turn towards Krishna while going through life. The other is, having turned toward Krishna, how to go through life. So both of these are important. So we will draw principles from the Bhagavatam also while we are discussing, but we'll focus on this theme of how can scriptural wisdom help us to face life's challenges. And I'll be explaining whatever we discuss. It will be, any person's life story can be conveyed through 4 C's. And this can apply to us. So this is a framework I'll keep coming back to, and we'll apply this to the characters in the Mahabharata. What are those 4 C's? The first is that we are constantly making choices. And the choices have consequences. So if we consider any, says, cricket is very popular among Indians. So if we consider the cricket match, a batsman may make a choice, tries to hit a big shot, and that shot comes out successfully, everybody praises. That shot comes out unsuccessfully and the batsman gets clean bowled. Why did you have to make the shot right now? Why were you so short-sighted? Why were you so foolish? So the choice has a consequence. So if we consider, some choices are very important because they have big consequences. Some choices have small consequences. In our own lives, we can say that maybe we decided to take this job and not that job. Maybe we decided to move from this country to that country. Stay at this place or that place. Each choice has a consequence. So at one level, any person's life, if we want to understand, we can look at what choices they made and what were the consequences they faced. However, this does not describe the story completely, because choices happen under some conditions. Nobody is completely free to make choices. We are all constrained, limited by certain conditions. So, say if somebody is staying close to devotees and they get a job which is far away from devotee association, and they take that job. That's a choice. The consequence would be that maybe their bhakti becomes much more difficult. They can't get association of devotees. Now, why did they take the choice? Maybe, they had some urgent financial requirement, and that job offered them much better money. So that was a condition. So choices happen under certain conditions. So conditions are external. But choices happen also because of conditionings. And conditionings are internal. So basically, when we make a particular choice, there is an external pressure that is created by the conditions, and there's an internal push that is created by conditionings. And within these four factors, our entire life story goes on. Within certain conditions and having certain conditionings, we make certain choices, and those lead to certain consequences. So we will look at, I'm not going to do a full overview of the story of the Mahabharata. I am going to focus on some key choice points. Some key choice points and how the characters acted in those choice points. And what were the consequences and what are the conditions and the conditionings. So by that, we will try to learn some life lessons for us. Now, we may not exactly face the same choices. We may not have the same conditions and the same conditionings. But broadly, life brings us to similar choices. And in one sense, this framework, it makes scripture relatable. So for example, in the Mahabharata, in the Ramayana, in the Bhagavatam, we often hear of characters who may have some extraordinary abilities. That say, now Bhima was so powerful that he could actually pick up elephants and throw them away. Arjuna was such a great archer that even in the dark, just by hearing sound, he could shoot arrows. In today's world, even people who are very good at shooting with guns, called snipers, when for them also to shoot based on sound is not so easy. So some people, they may have some extraordinary abilities. Some people may have mystical powers. Like say, Hanuman had the capacity to fly, leap and almost like fly. Ravan had 10 heads. So there are some characters who may have some extraordinary powers also. But the fact is, no matter how much power someone has, they still have conditions and conditionings. So if we focus only on how they are different, they have so many abilities, they have so many resources, they have so many gifts, blessings, then we may feel this is so different. So if we consider, we are right now in 2025, almost going to 2026, and say the Mahabharata happened around 3000 BC, approximately. So at that time the culture was somewhat different, the technology was different, the worldview was also different. But these four principles, these four C's hold true there and they hold true here also. we make choices and there are consequences. And our choices happen under certain conditions and certain conditionings. So with this, let's begin with the beginning. Beginning means we look at this first session, we'll talk about the childhood. Childhood of the Pandavas, childhood of the Kauravas, and we'll also talk about the childhood of Karna briefly. So basically, we will be having these 3 character charts. We'll be discussing the Pandavas. In the Pandavas, we'll focus primarily on Yudhishthir, but along with that, Bhima and Arjuna will be also discussing. Among the Kauravas, we'll focus on Duryodhan primarily. And we'll also discuss a little bit about Dhritarashtra and others. And then we'll be discussing about Karna. So, the first point, that when we begin our life journey, this is birth, this is death. So, when we begin our life journey, one of the first truths that come to us, that registers to us right from the very beginning itself, is that life is unfair. Unfair means that at one level it's unequal. Some people are born wealthier families than others. Some people just have very high IQs. Some people just, they look so attractive. Some people have such a gifted voice. So everybody has some things which are better than others, and everybody has some things which are worse than others. So life is unfair. And now we can go into philosophy and we will discuss about philosophy. But the point is, life is unfair for everyone. And how we deal with life's unfairness, that is the single biggest choice that we will all have to make in our life. So when we face the fact that life is unfair, now we can either go upward from there or we can go downwards. So what is going upward and what is going downward mean? So going upward means that first is tolerance. Accept that yes, it is unfair. And we need to come to terms with it. Tolerance does not mean passivity. We'll discuss what tolerance means. Now, instead of tolerance, somebody can go towards, I'll use some words a little different, but these are difficult, but these are words that rhyme over here, that's why I'm using vengeance. Vengeance means badla lena. Why is life unfair like this? And I'll fight against it, I'll destroy the whole system. Now, from tolerance, as I said, tolerance is not passivity, from there we can go to transcendence. Transcendence means we rise above those situations. Some of the most inspiring stories in human society or human history at large are stories of people who came from very difficult circumstances. Maybe they were born in a very poor family, or there's no educational support available for them, and still they rose and made something worthwhile, even wonderful from their lives. So I'm using transcend in that sense. We rise beyond our situations. Now vengeance is where whoever we think they have hurt us, we want to hurt and destroy those people. Now vengeance is more specific. This person did this to me, therefore I'll do this to this person. But from there, some people can go towards, the word is malevolence. Malevolence means you just become hateful towards everyone. Hate life in general. The whole world is a rotten place. The whole world should be destroyed. So this becomes very generic. I generally spend almost 6 to 8 months a year outside India traveling. So I spent about 3 to 4 months in America. Once I was doing a college program, and at that time I didn't have this tablet facility. So there was a whiteboard and I was writing on that. And I wrote something. While I was writing, I heard some bell, kind of some sound. I neglected it, continued writing. And I turned around and the whole class was empty. what happened? Where did people go? So I wondered, was the class so scary that people left like that? And then I heard some whispering sound. Then I noticed that the organizer who had been sitting on the right side, he had ducked under the desk. There's a classroom, so there are desks. And I looked at everyone and I saw everybody had gone under the desk. And then he whispered to me, he said that sound is an alarm that there is a gunman inside the premises. And he said that you also duck under the table. I said, really? Okay, so somehow I got under the table. And then I was wondering how long should I wait. And then I was waiting, and then suddenly we heard a knock on the door. And I thought, what a polite gunman. And then a person in security uniform poked his head inside. Relax, guys, that was just a practice drill. So now what happens is that this is unfortunately a significant fear, that sometimes people with guns just come in and they just go random wild shooting. So now there are many reasons why people may do this, but one reason is that many of these children, they come from broken families, and this feeling that life has been unfair to me. No, I didn't have a father, or I didn't have a parent, I didn't have good educational opportunities, this went wrong, that went wrong. That resentment, that hate, that gets filled so much, they just destroy everyone. So that way, we can go down a very dark track. So now if we look, broadly speaking, we'll see how the Pandavas went upwards, and the Kauravas went downwards. And we'll see where Karna went and how we went in that direction. If we look at the unfairness of life, now Duryodhan could have said that life is unfair. Why? Why did my father have to be blind? My father was the elder brother, and if he had not been blind, he could have been the king. And if he had been the king, I would have been the king. Isn't it? Now he could have blamed further. It is said that when Dhritarashtra's mother, when she was uniting, she was scared by seeing Vyasadeva and she closed her eyes. And that's one reason, not the only reason, that because she closed her eyes at that time, that's why Dhritarashtra turned out to be blind. He says, why did she have to do that? So now he was born in royalty and he expected that he should be the king, and he was not. So the fact that his father was blind, and that's why he did not have an undisputed claim to the kingdom. He could say that life is unfair. Now for Karna also, life was unfair. Now the unfairness, if we consider the starting point, the unfairness of life. The starting point, we can say its maximum to minimum, if we consider the range, it's most visible for Karna. How was life unfair to Karna? His mother abandoned him. So Kunti, because he was born before her wedding, so she couldn't keep him. And then he was born again a Kshatriya, but he grew up as a Suta. So he did not get the privilege, the honor, the facility of being a Kshatriya. And that is the unfairness for him is very evident at one level. Now it was unfair for him. We discussed how it is unfair for Duryodhana also. Now if we consider for the Pandavas, how was life unfair to them? At one level, Pandu had already become the king. And when Pandu was alive, there's not much mention that Dhritarashtra was very aggressively envious of him. Pandu was very respectful to his elder brother, and overall they lived in harmony. But when Pandu decided to retire from the world, his mind moved towards spiritual pursuits, and he went, then his wives also went with him, and there they had children. So now when Pandu went to the forest, that's the time Dhritarashtra got the opportunity to sit on the throne. He was not doing much of the work. Bhishma was taking care of the military expeditions, and Vidura was taking care of the administrative part. So he did not have much work to do. But still, he got the opportunity to sit on the throne. And slowly, he started getting used to it. See, if we keep getting something, even if we don't deserve it, even if we have not earned it, then slowly we get attached to it. So now, Pandu went to the forest. If Pandu had not gone to the forest, then again the succession would have been very clear. Pandu was the king, and then his son would become the next king. But Pandu went to the forest, and because of a curse, it was presumed that he might not be able to have any children at all. And that's how when Duryodhan grew up, now they knew that Pandu had a son, but Pandu had no plan of coming back from the forest. So whether his sons would come back from the forest, whether they would claim the kingdom, none of that was known. So what happened? Duryodhan grew up thinking that I will become the next king. On one side he knew that his claim was not clear, but at least he was there right now. The Pandavas were not there in the kingdom. So now the Pandavas could have said that Yudhishthira and other Pandavas, why did our father have to renounce the kingdom at all? And then life was unfair to them in the sense that their father passed away. Now, Yudhishthira could have blamed his father also. He says, you knew there was a curse. And still you played with fire. Couldn't you resist the temptation? Couldn't you have been careful? You left us as orphans. So there's no evidence that, no mention anywhere that he was resentful towards his father. It is a tragic thing that happened. But the point was, now both of them. So Yudhishthir had no father, and Duryodhan had a blind father. So neither of them is an ideal situation to be in. So at one level, life was unfair to both of them. Now generally, in royal households, or any household, but in the especially royal households, especially there's a lot of concern for the king and the queen that who will be the successor. And that's why they want to have what is called an heir. So heir is the child who will take up the responsibility, take up the kingship thereafter. Now, if the king and queen have no child, then they are very worried that they should have an heir. Now, once they have an heir, if that is the only child, they are still worried. What if something happens to this child? Therefore, after they have an heir, then they want a spare. Now, the spare situation is not a very pleasant situation. Normally, no sibling will want anything bad to happen to their sibling. But the spare is not going to become the king unless something happens to the heir. So what happened was, Duryodhan in some ways grew up thinking that I am the heir. Now actually he was never undisputed heir. The Pandava, Yudhishthira was older to him. But because he was not there, so he grew up, everybody was paying respects to him, and he was the center of attention. And then the Pandavas came back. They came back amid tragedy, but they came back. And then what happened was, when Duryodhan was here, and then when Yudhishthir came back, multiple things happened. That, see, in any family, if it could be joint family, extended family, whatever, if some new child comes, then there is that curiosity just out of the newness. You want to pay more attention. Oh, who is this child? How does the child behave? What is the nature of this child? You want to know more and more. So previously when Duryodhan would come into a room, everybody would pay attention to him. But now if Duryodhan and Yudhishthira came to the room, the attention would go to Yudhishthira. And he started feeling piqued. What's going on over here? So there was that curiosity factor out of newness. But there was not just the curiosity factor, there was also the factor of culture. Culture in the sense that, culture or conduct we can say, that Duryodhan had grown up with a bit of an entitlement mentality. He had lived in the palace, so there were always servants at his beck and call. The Pandavas had lived in a forest. There were no servants over there. To the contrary, there were sages. And the idea is that we should respect and serve the sages. So the Pandavas were, and especially Yudhishthira among them, was especially very polite, respectful, well behaved. So, in general, if there is a new child in a family or there's curiosity about that. But then on top of that, if the child is sweet and well behaved, then it's so much more, isn't it? And beyond that, what happened was there's also some confusion. Confusion is who is the successor. Because Yudhishthir was older than Duryodhan, although Dhritarashtra had been older than Pandu. So now, therefore, many people started feeling, okay, in the past we had given so much attention to Duryodhan, let's give attention to Yudhishthir. Maybe it was conscious, it was unconscious, but Duryodhan here started feeling, what's happening over here? And Duryodhan had also been a bit of a bully. He had been the strongest among all his brothers, and whenever he would wrestle, he would beat all of them up. And when Bhima came, Bhima, they were wrestling, and Bhima just picked Duryodhan and threw him into the water. Bhima had no bad intention, it was just that he had his power and he was playing. But nobody had dared do anything like this to Duryodhan. And it is one thing that Yudhishthira was stealing the attention, but the very thing that Duryodhana was proud of, his strength, that he just couldn't bear it. How can somebody be stronger than me? So, at one level, for everyone in life, there is a time when we will feel insecurity. So, I was talking about this downward journey. So, from insecurity can come envy. And from envy, it can go down to enmity. It doesn't have to. So now, to whatever extent if we observe, Duryodhan's feeling of insecurity is understandable. Anybody in that situation would feel insecure. In any home also. If there's one child, and then the next child is born. Actually, parents' attention shift to the second child. And the first child may feel, have a parents paying attention to me at all or not? There will be a little insecurity. Now, the way in a normal family is addressed is by encouraging the older child to also take responsibility for the younger child. Not that we are neglecting you, that you are grown up, you are an adult, you are growing up, you are at least older than him or her, and you help in taking care. So the feeling of insecurity is natural. But what happens is, see, for all of us, life will bring us to situations of insecurity. Say, if we are in a community and we are good kirtaniers, and we sing nicely, and we do, that is our service, and our devotees also appreciate us for doing nice kirtans. And then some other devotee comes into the community, and that person is a great singer. And what happens? That person is invited all the time, come on, now you lead the kirtan, you lead the kirtan. And now, at this stage, it may not be envy. But it's just that insecurity is, do I have a place over here? Will I have a place over here? Will I have any role, any significance over here? So insecurity is an entirely understandable emotion. And life will make us feel insecure sooner or later. But from there, insecurity is more about, do I have any value, place or significance? But when it goes to envy, it's more about negativity toward the other person. It is, why is this person so good? Why is this person being respected so much? What is so special about this person? There's nothing special. Why are people thinking there's so much special over here? So envy becomes more of the attitude of pulling down the other person. So while insecurity is understandable, envy is undesirable. So envy means what? That it's like insecurity is, am I good enough? Envy is, why are you so good? Why do people think you are so good? And that is more directed with negativity toward the other person. And now envy is also, while it is not a healthy emotion, but it's understandable. We all feel envy. See, the difference between the divine and the demoniac nature, as described by Krishna in the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, is not that the demons have horns coming out of their head or they have teeth coming out of their mouth. What Krishna describes is that the key difference is in terms of boundaries. That Sima or Maryada. See, everybody gets angry. That's just natural. Life is difficult. And when life doesn't go our way, we will feel angry. So anger is not pleasant, but it's understandable. But when people get angry, how far do they go when they get angry? Now, some people may just refuse to talk. Give the other person silent treatment. So when anger is there, so one boundary would be, I won't talk with you. Another could be, people raise their voice. Sometimes people don't just raise their voice, they may start raising their fists. Sometimes people may go behind and look for some knife. Sometimes somebody will look for a gun. Then somebody may look for a bomb. Now, if say the President of America or the President of Russia, they get angry, they can use a nuclear bomb and nuke an entire country. Isn't it? So now, anger is natural. And even those who are of a divine nature, those who are of a godly disposition, they will also get angry. But they will keep their anger within boundaries. But those who are of a demoniac nature, for their anger does not know any boundaries. So greed, wanting money, is there in everyone. But what are we ready to do for greed? How far are we ready to go? So in office, typically there's always, it's not just based on performance that somebody succeeds. There's also office politics is there. And politics means that one person may form a group with some other people and try to curry favor with this person, maybe speak something negative about that person, and try to elevate themselves. That's understandable, not desirable, but it's just a fact of life. But even in, say, normal office politics, people have a sense of boundaries. I may spread some negative rumor about you, but I'm not going to spread a negative rumor about your wife or your daughter or something like that. That is going too far. So the idea is that there are boundaries. So Duryodhan feeling envious is understandable. Not desirable, but it's understandable. But then from envy, what happened to him? He went straight to enmity. Some people say in India there are lots of leftist writers, and they try to say that actually, the Kauravas are not such bad people. Ravana was not such a bad person. Just a misunderstood person. So one such thread of thought is, actually, Duryodhan was not such a bad person. It was Shakuni who made him bad. Well, yes and no. See, when Bhima was poisoned, that was the first terrible thing that he did. That time Shakuni was not much involved over there. So it was not that Duryodhana was good and Shakuni made him bad. It was Duryodhana was bad and Shakuni made him worse. So now the normal rivalry is there. But what happened? It's just understandable. But when he decided to poison Bhima, this is a horrendous thing to do. And that's where what is happening is, okay, why are people more attracted to that person? Why is that Bhima stronger than me? Okay, then you could try to become stronger. But instead of that, let me destroy him. So the choices, if you consider, we are talking about choices and consequences. So what was the choice he made? I explained the condition and the conditioning. The condition was at one level, if you consider Duryodhana's choice over here. Duryodhana's choice. What was his choice? Choice was, he tried to poison Bhima. And what was the condition over here? At one level, the condition was, there was uncertainty externally. Uncertainty about who is going to become the king. And he could say that the uncertainty is unfair. And then the conditioning was that he had a certain level of insecurity. He had that insecurity, and with that insecurity he acted. Now, every choice leads to a consequence. So what happened in the consequence over here? At one level, there was a negative consequence. At another level, there was a positive consequence. So, for him, initially, he made that scheme, and Bhima apparently died. For more than a week, Bhima had disappeared. And the Pandavas were frantic with anxiety. What happened? Where is he? And then, Bhima came back stronger. Bhima went into the was taken to the celestial domain, where he was saved. Although he was given the poison, the way fate worked, way destiny worked was that there were some snakes in that lake whose poison acted as the antidote. And then he was taken deep down. And there were the devatas over there. They told him what has happened. That Bhima, you are poisoned, O Bhima. And they gave him nectar. Now with this nectar, he became even more powerful. When he came back, he was enraged. And he said, I'm going to teach Duryodhana lesson, beat him up. Now when he met Yudhishthir, he told Yudhishthir what had happened. Yudhishthir became pensive, thoughtful. He said, better let us not do anything rash right now. He says, we are new in the family here, and you don't have any evidence. It will simply be your word against his word. To accuse somebody of having poisoned is a very serious accusation. This may rip our family apart. And we don't know who will support us, who will not support us. And he said, maybe Duryodhana is just insecure. Just let's be careful with him. Let's not provoke him any further. And that way, we will hope that this matter ends. Now, Bhima did not like that idea, but he accepted. Yudhishthira was older, and he accepted it. Now, as future events will tell, we will evaluate whether this decision was the right decision or not the right decision. And there also later, when we'll talk about dharma, we'll talk about how do we know what is the right decision or wrong decision. But the thing is, here what happened, that at one level, he did not get any consequence. Now, of course, one consequence was that Bhima survived, and Bhima became stronger. And Bhima could not resist wanting to have some fun at Duryodhana's expense. So he called Duryodhana and said, Duryodhana, last time we had that picnic, and Duryodhana became tense. Is he going to accuse me? He said, you had given me that delicacy. Duryodhana became even more tense. He says, that was delicious. Can you make more of that for me? And Duryodhana thought, oh wow, I got another opportunity. But what had happened? Because Bhima had taken that celestial nectar, now he had become immune to that poison. And Duryodhana offered him that same poisoned cakes, and he ate them and nothing happened to him. And Duryodhana became even more bewildered and enraged. What's happening over here? But the thing is that sometimes a person may do something bad and not get any bad results. And that can be really bad. Because what happens is, that if somebody does something bad and gets bad results, then at least they learn from it. But in this case, he did not get any bad results. And now why did this happen? I'll talk about the principle of karma in the little later. So the negative consequence and the positive consequence. The positive consequence was that he got away with it. Now was it a positive consequence or was it a negative consequence? At least for him it was positive. That I made a scheme, although it did not work, but I can make these schemes. And a future scheme will work. Krishna talks about this Asuri Pravritti in the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where he says that, he says, Asaum idamadhyamaya labdham imam prapse manoratham idamasti, idamapime, bhavishyati punardhanam. It's about thinking about how I'll use this scheme to make money, and I'll make money that way, and I'll make money that way. Actually, if you read the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita in the light of the Mahabharata, then it's very clear that actually when Krishna is describing these verses, he's referring to Duryodhana. And sometimes, in a public discussion, two people are talking and they don't mention the name of that person, but everybody who knows the situation, they know who is being talked about. So like that, Krishna is talking and he says, oh, I'll have this scheme and that scheme, and then he goes further. This is normal craving for money. But from there he goes, asau maya hatah shatrur hanishye chaparanapi ishvaro aham ambogi siddho am balvan sukhi. This enemy I have killed, and that enemy also I'll kill. That's the point of going too far, going beyond boundaries. So when we go beyond boundaries, that's where things start going wrong. So for him, that is what happened in life. So now, if we move forward, let's talk about Karna and his childhood now. I said for Karna, life was unfair in the sense that he was not, he didn't have royal privilege or royal facilities. Having said that, if we consider, say, Karna's life as who was his main rival of Karna? Arjuna. Now, Arjuna was born in royalty. But if you see, Karna, there was no comfort, no royal comfort, no privilege. But as far as we know, there was no one attempting to kill Karna in his childhood. There was no one attempting to destroy his family. His parents loved him, his parents cared for him. So he had safety. Now Arjuna had comfort, but he had no safety. The first two attempts to assassinate that were done, first was through poison in the food, and the second was burning the entire house. Now if you consider from a contemporary psychological perspective, these can cause terrible scars. Because you see, eating and say relaxing at home, these are the two of the most comforting activities we do in life. So we maybe had a hard day and then we meet with friends and we eat food together. Now if while eating food itself somebody is poisoned, there's like every meal you take you're worried, will there be poison in this? There's accidental, we might have suffered from accidental food poisoning. But intentional poisoning, it can cause trauma. And then our home is the place where we are the safest. At least. And then there are many ways somebody can die. But among all the ways people die, dying by burning is the worst. Because somebody is stabbed, somebody is shot. The wound is at one point. It's painful, but it's at one point. But when we are burnt, then the whole skin burns. I have a friend in California who is a firefighter, and he told me that when there are these, if some big buildings they have fires, then when the fire has become unbearable, people often jump out and end their lives. Why? Because it's the flame, it will burn you everywhere. You just fall once and in one moment you will die. So often they put security nets all around so that people can jump out. So the Pandavas were attempted to be burned. And if we compare this to Karna's life, there was not having any danger to his life. That is a big positive. So yes, his mother Kunti abandoned him. That's true. You could say, oh, he was so unfortunate, life is so unfair. But when he was abandoned, he was actually found and accepted by a very good family who actually cared for him. And in that way, life is a mix, broadly. For everyone, life is a mix of being fair and unfair. And Now, to his credit, Karna did not immediately become bitter or resentful. He saw what was good with him. He had archery ability, and he developed that archery ability. He could not get into Drona's academy, so he went to Parshuram, and he learned from Parshuram. So basically, the point I was making now is, each one of us in life, for everyone, there will be some aspect of life which is fair, and some aspect of life which is unfair. So life feels unfair, and that is true. But that is not the complete reality. So many of you know that I need crutches for walking. When I was about 1, at that time I was staying in a small town in Maharashtra, and my mother took me to a nearby clinic to get the polio vaccine. Now, among all the vaccines, polio is one of the most reliable ones, and as such, polio is more or less eliminated from the world. But because it was a small town, there used to be power supply outages there. And the previous night in that particular clinic, because the power supply had gone off, the fridge in which the vaccines had been kept had got heated up. And because of that, the germs in the vaccine had multiplied. Now, neither the attendant nor the physician noticed that. And when I was given that vaccine, instead of preventing polio, it ended up causing polio. Now, I don't remember any of this. I was told that I was just learning to walk, and I fell down and I could never walk normally thereafter. Now, my first memory of this is when I was about 2.5 or 3. At that time, a distant relative had come to our home, and she was consoling my mother, saying, "It's so sad, your son got polio." And I remember my mother's voice, very calm, clear, confident. She said, "Whatever he lacks physically, God will provide him intellectually." Now, I don't know why she said that. Whether I had shown some ability, it was based on observation, or whether it was her hope, it was her prayer, it was her blessing. Whatever it was, that stayed with me. And then as I grew up, I noticed that I did have some intellectual ability. I could remember facts and figures quite easily. I could articulate them well. I could analyze things. I could, overall, that intellectual ability became my strength. And I always did fairly well in studies. Now, in our neighborhood, there was one boy who was athletically a genius. At every sports, he was great. And because athletically I was 0, so he would often make fun of me, use words like cripple, langda, and things like that. Now, I was more annoyed than hurt by that, because I didn't identify with my physical side so much. So, but anyway, so we didn't have the best of relationships. And one day my mother told me that his mother had approached her and said that, he was struggling in maths. And I was quite good at maths. So she requested that I should help him. Now, even before my mother concluded, I started shaking my head. No, I don't want to help him. And then my mother said, no, they are our neighbors, and he's your friend. I shook my head even more. He's not my friend. So I didn't want to help him at all. But my mother said, no, you should help him. So I reluctantly agreed out of respect. And then when I was trying to help him with maths, I spent about 15-20 minutes, half an hour explaining things to him. And soon I realized that there was nothing in between his ears. His height seemed to be more than his IQ. No, this is not in the insulting sense, it is just objective. He just couldn't understand. Although I was trying to explain, he just couldn't get it. And one part of me wanted to laugh at him and make fun of him. But something stopped me. And maybe many years later, I specifically articulated it this way. But overall, what struck me is that I have a physical limitation, and that is quite visible. But he has an intellectual limitation. It may not be easily visible, but it is there. And if he laughed at me and makes fun of me because of my physical limitation, And if I laugh at him and make fun of him for his intellectual limitation, then how am I really different? So basically, the truth is, life is unfair to everyone. Now, I could have said that, why do I have this physical disability? What did I do to deserve this? It's unfair. And yes, from this life's perspective, it is true. But then I could turn that question around and ask, why do I have this intellectual ability? What did I do to deserve this? So yes, life is unfair, but in the big picture, life is fairly unfair. Fairly unfair means, in some areas, we get more than what we deserve. In some areas, we get less than what we deserve. In some areas, life is better than others for us. In some areas, life is worse than others for us. So, the single most important choice that we will ever make in our life is, what do we focus on? If we focus on how life is fair for us, our life will go upwards. If we focus on how life is unfair to us, our life will go downwards. So, if we, let's keep it here. Thank you. So, if we focus on how life is fair, we will become resourceful. Resourceful means, whatever resources we have, we will start using them well. If we focus on how life is unfair, we will become resentful. And this will take us on a darker track. So broadly, we could say that both the Pandavas as well as Karna, they chose this path. They were resourceful. Duryodhan chose to be resentful. And he started going down a darker track. Now, he did not get the results immediately, and we'll talk about karma later. But the point is that life will be unfair to everyone. We all can think about, maybe we were in a family where we had a sibling who was always praised by our parents, or we were in a class where some other kid always got the credit, or we are in a workplace and we do the work but somebody else steals all the limelight. In many ways, life will be unfair. In our family, we do a lot of work for everyone, but then we are never appreciated. Somebody else is praised always. So life will be unfair. And I don't want to sound simplistic that it is 50% fair, 50% unfair. No, sometimes it may be so brutal that it can be 90% can be unfair. 95% can be unfair. 5%, 10% can be fair. So, but still the choice remains for us. What is it that we are going to focus on? I was just 1 month ago, I was in Scotland, and there I met some devotees who had come from Ukraine. And I was talking with this devotee, and he was a doctor in Ukraine. And now in Scotland, he's a Uber driver. His medical degree is not recognized, and they required to do some exams and other things, which is quite expensive. He doesn't have the money. And it is a terrible situation for him. But when I was talking with him, I was so amazed. He was actually grateful. He said there are so many others who couldn't get away from there and they were killed in the war or the other places. He said, at least I'm in a place where I got a job, I got a home for my family, my children are going to school. So now, most of us will probably never experience a disruption like that. Suddenly there's a war and we have to leave with nothing. And you may say, okay, I can't take my wealth with me, I can't take my house with me. But at least my degree, you can't even take your degree with you in one sense. I worked for it, I earned it. So, now life can be terribly unfair. But, yes, you could say that you could have gone to a country where you had no facility at all. You could be starving and dying. So look for how life is fair with us. Look for what is good in life. And that is the beginning for us in our spiritual life. When Srila Prabhupada came to America, he composed a song called Markine Bhagavad Dharma. And the first line of that song is remarkable. Boro Krupa Koile Krishna Adhamera Prati ki lagiya nileheta koroe begati. So first line he's saying is Boro Krupa Koile Krishna. Krishna, you have been immensely merciful to me. Now, if we look from an objective perspective, what is the mercy? Srila Prabhupada is at the age of 70. He has been trying to share Krishna Bhakti for 30, 40 years, and he doesn't even have a single assistant with him now. He has practically no money with him. He has no contacts whom he knows who are going to support him over there. There's no organizational backing for him. The only resource he had was his body, and that suffered 2 heart attacks. He could have asked, what is the mercy over here? I'm trying to serve you and so many things have gone wrong. But what was Prabhupada focusing on? He was focusing on the fact that at least he had got to America, and that now he had the opportunity to carry out the instruction of a spiritual master. So for Srila Prabhupada, if we look at facility, he had 0 facility. When his godbrothers had gone to UK for preaching at that time, their whole mission had been funded by Bhaktivedanta Swami Thakur. So everything had been taken care of for them. As contrast with Prabhupada had come all alone. So he had no facility. But he was just grateful that I have the opportunity. So Prabhupada focused on that opportunity, and he's saying, Krishna, you have been so merciful to me that so many things could have gone wrong, but at last, I am here in America. I have an opportunity to carry forward the instruction of my spiritual master. So Prabhupada was also resourceful rather than resentful. So that is, we talk about choices and consequences. The first and the choice which we have to make, not just first in the sense that at the start of our life, but the first choice we need to make in all situations that we may face is, what am I going to focus on? What is wrong in my life or what is right in my life? That how life is unfair or how life is fair. And the Pandavas show us how to make that right choice. What happens thereafter, we will discuss in our next session tomorrow. I'll summarize what I discussed today. Our topic today in Mahabharata life lessons was life's unfairness and how to deal with that. So I talked about 3 main points today. First was the framework that we are going to use. We're going to study the scripture using 4 C's. What are the C's? Anyone remembers? Choices. They lead to consequences. And those choices happen under certain conditions and conditionings. So we discussed about how 3 characters we are going to discuss: the Pandavas, the Kauravas, and Karna. So we discussed how all of them, in terms of childhood, we discussed for all of them life was unfair in different ways. From the unfairness of life, we could say for Karna it was the most in terms of visibility. Visibly what happened for him was his parents abandoned him, or his mother abandoned him. But still we discussed that for Duryodhan, for Yudhishthir and the Pandavas, it was they became orphans. So he was abandoned. For Yudhishthir he became orphan because father passed away. And for Duryodhan, what happened was, it was uncertain. For him, his father was blind, and because of that, he didn't know what to do. There was no clear claim to the kingdom. So here we discussed that how insecurity is natural. But from insecurity what comes down is envy. Insecurity is, am I good enough? Envy is, why is this person so good? and then from envy it goes down to enmity. So we discussed that Duryodhan went down this dark track. The difference between the divine and the demoniac is not in terms of the desires, it is more in terms of the boundaries. What differentiates them is, when they have desires, what are they never ready to do just to fulfill those desires. So Duryodhan crossed a terrible line when he went down and tried to kill Bhima. So then we discussed about life's unfairnesses. Life is unfair, that is true, but life is fairly unfair. That for Karna we discussed, he had safety. That was the positive which he had. For Arjuna, you could say that Arjuna and the Pandavas in general, he had comfort to some extent. But then there was a lot of danger constantly. For Duryodhan, he was born in privilege. So everybody had something right in their life, and everybody had something wrong in their life. So the single most important choice we'll make in our life is, we have to see, in my life, what am I going to focus on? How life is unfair to me, or how life is fair to me. So if we focus on how life is fair, we can be resourceful. We can move forward and make better we can try to make the best out of the situation. Or we can be resentful, and that will take us down. So Duryodhan took the downward path, Karna and the Pandavas took the upward path. And what happened thereafter, we'll discuss in future sessions. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Do we have time for questions? Yes, sir. Are there any questions or comments?
Anybody has some questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the wonderful analysis. It was so inspiring. My question is, although we are in Krishna consciousness, we have heard so much of lectures, read so much, still it is very difficult to come out of the envy many times in life. So how we negotiate and transcend envy is my question.
Okay. How do we deal with envy? It's very difficult to come out of it. Yes, I don't think it's easy at all. And I would say that the first three broad things I'll talk about for dealing with envy is that first level is, be kind to yourself, because what we might label as envy might actually be insecurity. That don't be too hard on ourselves. In the moment, it is very difficult to know whether it is insecurity or it's envy. So life is difficult, and everybody has that feeling of, does my life matter? Do I matter? And we often look at this from a comparative perspective. That okay, how much am I valued? And how much is this person valued? And we live in an incessantly comparing society. Especially nowadays, all of us, we look at ourselves through what can be called as a social mirror. How much others value us, how much others respect us. We look at ourselves through a social mirror. Now what has happened in today's world is the social mirror has become expanded to the social media mirror. And especially among teenagers, a huge amount of insecurity is there. So say one kid put some photos of, oh, I went to this party, I went to this event, and I got only 5 likes, and he or she put the photos and they got 50 likes. 50 likes. Why? Why don't people like me? And what happens is, people don't like me, then I stop liking myself. And it is, I think, jumping to the conclusion that it's envy is hurting ourselves many times. So If we don't feel good when somebody else is successful, or somebody else speaks like that, we don't have to jump to the conclusion that it is envy. First is, look at that and be understanding, be kind to yourself. Now second is that in general, I'll talk about the principle of karma tomorrow or day after, we'll see how it goes. But most of the times what happens is that we are envious, our envy is directed towards people's achievement. That, oh, this person was praised so much, this person got this award, this person got this recognition. But underlying that achievement is commitment. No one is envious of others' commitment, the work that they put in. Now we may think that, oh, success just falls into the lap of this person. I work so much, I don't get any success. Everything just happens for this person. Now yes, sometimes by karma, sometimes some people may seem to get good fortune. But there is a difference between good fortune and achievement. Good fortune can come by past karma. Like somebody just wins a lottery, or somebody gets a job where the boss is very good to them, or somebody gets a job in a company that just grows rapidly and the salary also increases. But fortune is fickle. It comes and it goes. But if somebody is consistently doing something, if somebody has achieved a certain level of excellence, that is not just by fortune. That is by hard work. So in general, the people whom we feel envious of, if we just get to know more about what all they have done in their lives to get to that place, then even if it is grudgingly, that envy will move towards respect. See, envy and respect are not that different. The key difference is envy and respect is that respect is, hey, you are so good. Envy is, why are you so good? So respect is offered willingly and often happily. Whereas envy is offered unwillingly and unhappily. The thing is, if you just shift to the commitment that the other people have shown, we'll find that our envy will go down. And then we'll say, okay, maybe I should also become more committed. I can also work harder, and then I can succeed. Maybe will we get exactly that same level of success? We don't know. But just shifting to the other's commitment is very helpful. And that is what becomes very difficult on social media also. In social media, people put only the happiest moments of their life. And nobody generally puts their private sorrows and sufferings. And so what happens is, because of that, we often see the best part of their lives and we don't see their struggles. And that also not only fuels our insecurity, but it can fuel our envy also. And the third thing is that we can try to see if we can focus on the shared purpose. That while we may be competitors, we all have a shared purpose. Say if there's a pandemic and there are 2 doctors in a hospital and the patients being treated. One doctor treats 50 patients, another doctor treats 70 patients. So the point is, should the doctor who treats 50 patients feel envious of the 70 patient person, treater? No, ultimately we are trying to save people over here. So the more we are able to shift our focus to the cause that we are trying to serve, what is it that we are trying to do, then envy will start going down. And ultimately, we are here to serve Krishna. We are here to share Krishna's message with others. And if Krishna chooses to empower some other devotee, by observing that devotee, I can try to learn, and maybe I'll also be empowered like that. But even if I am not empowered, the point is Krishna's mission is moving forward. Guru's mission is moving forward. So it's very easy to say this. In the moment, it's not that easy to avoid that feeling of envy. But overall, the tangible steps by which we can decrease that feeling of envy. Okay. Thank you. Any other question or comment?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Very nicely explained. But the insecurity, the conditioning, I don't know, I might be wrong, but insecurity is a common factor for everyone. So it can be a positive reinforcement or a negative reinforcement. It depends upon how one actually counters or he faces that insecurity in life. Because all of us have insecurities in life, no, Prabhu? So how can it be the single most conditioning factor for Duryodhana and not for Arjuna in his life, or the Pandavas? And the other thing is the envy. You said the boundaries now, Prabhu, for envies. So if, yeah, the boundaries for envy. But okay, this kind of quality, it comes from our previous lives, no? It is usually the vasanas are continued, so there is always a past.
Okay.
And so how, I mean, if that person is continuing to be in the same condition, how can he actually rectify himself? Is there, why his intelligence is not proper? So that's
questions. Should I answer now or should I answer tomorrow? Okay, I'll answer them briefly now, because we'll be discussing both of these topics a little later in one of our future sessions. But so the first question was that insecurity is there in everyone. So can insecurity alone explain what Duryodhana did? Isn't it that there are some, generally when people do some bad things, it's often because they have some conditionings from the past which they carry on. Yes, that is true. So in general, I'm not saying that insecurity alone is the cause. But in general for us, whenever any event is happening, say if right now, suddenly the audio goes off over here. Now what I'll think is, did I accidentally switch off this mic? Or has the battery got discharged? So we will try to look for the immediate explanation. Or has the power supply itself gone off? Or is it that suddenly I think that maybe I have gone deaf or I have gone dumb? Like some people, they while watching TV, they sit on the remote and they press the mute, and when they can't hear a sound, they, oh, I've gone deaf. You know, that's crazy. Or if suddenly I'm speaking and suddenly the sound goes off, should I think that Krishna is unhappy with me and that's why Krishna turned off the mic? No. In general, whenever we face any problems, the Nyaya is Vedic logic. Nyaya says always start with the Drushta Karan, the immediate cause. Because the immediate cause is actionable for us. Now there could be an Adrushta Karan for that also. There could be an invisible cause for that also. But always start from the immediate cause and then move towards bigger causes. So I was in UK last year and I was at one devotee's home. And this devotee had been introduced to Krishna Consciousness through youth outreach. And he was quite vigorous. He wanted to do a lot of sharing of Krishna Bhakti. And he told me that he had got married. And he says, my wife is not at all cooperative. And, you know, I've got a realization. He said, Krishna wanted me to become detached from material life. That's why he has given me an uncooperative wife. And I told him, wait a minute, you know. So then I had got to his home and he was driving through the city. So they had made prasad and I was taking prasad and I was talking with him. And his wife was also very intelligent lady, very open to Krishna Bhakti. And then when she was talking, overall she started saying about how in the name of Bhakti, he was neglecting many basic family responsibilities. What a husband should be doing. And that's why she was unhappy with him. Now, then later I told him that, you know, if there is a reason for her dissatisfaction, then you need to try to address that reason. If in spite of addressing that reason, still she stays unhappy, still she stays uncooperative, then you can go to past life karma. isn't it, our past karma. So in general, so what we are trying to do over here is that we are trying to start with the immediate fact. So there were some circumstances which led to Duryodhana feeling in a particular way and acting in a particular way. Now, were the circumstances the only causes? No. Were the conditionings, we're talking insecurity is the only conditioning? No, not. But this is one conditioning. This is what is relatable for us. And we can also be in a situation where we can go from insecurity towards envy, towards enmity, and we would like to avoid that. Now, in general, our past karma, it can create certain conditionings which push us in particular directions. But our past karma never takes away our free will completely. Our past karma may make certain kind of emotions and desires more likely within us. But it is for us to choose. Yes, Duryodhana had a lot of envy. But even though he had that envy, let's assume that came from his past life, but still, now he had the association of Bhishma and Vidura. He also had the association of Shakuni. He chose the association of Shakuni. Now, that is a choice from this life. We could say that actually he would have been attracted to that Shakuni's association. That's true. But still, that was a choice. So, often, our past conditionings might be there. But it is for the choices that we make that can either aggravate those conditionings or they can regulate those conditionings. If somebody is known to be short-tempered, and if they are short-tempered and they keep a knife or a gun in their home, then they're just calling for disaster to happen, isn't it? If somebody has a weakness for sweets and they're diabetic and they say, I will take the service of being in charge of Mahaprasad. Now, there are many services we could do, but that service may not be the best service for you. So, we could just, certain conditionings may be there from our past, but we by our choices often put ourselves in conditions that aggravate those conditionings. So in that sense, there is always scope for free will for us. Okay, we'll discuss about this more in tomorrow's session. Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Today we are going to release our New Year calendar. So I am requesting Prabhuji to kindly to release this calendar, and I request His Grace Murti Mohan Das Prabhuji to receive the first calendar from Prabhu. And we would like to thank the sponsors for this calendar: His Grace Pradeep Prabhu from KP Designers, and Dilip Prabhu from Saim Mechanical Contracting, and Sukumar Prabhu from Union Press, and Partha Chatterjee Prabhuji, and also Jyoti Prabhu from Rahal Tents. We would like to thank all of them. And also our special thanks goes to our Grace Urmila Mataji for allowing us to use Mataji's many pictures and thoughts which we put it in our calendar. And also another special thanks goes to His Grace Antaranga Prabhu and Her Grace Adigobi Mataji. They have done a wonderful service for this, bringing up this calendar very nicely. Hare Krishna. Yes, I request Murti Mohan Das Prabhuji to come and receive the first calendar. So the calendar will be on sale from our Sankirtan stall. It will be priced at 1 BD. We won. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. They're here? Oh, okay, call them.
Hare Krishna. I request Sriman Dilip Prabhuji on the stage to receive the copy. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, I request the Pradeep Prabhuji also. Please come and collect the calendar from Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji class continues. Tomorrow the Prabhuji will be giving class in Gopal Krishna temple. So requesting the devotees kindly please be there at the temple by 7:45 p.m. Hare Bol. And today evening the Bhoga to the Lordship, it was offered by main sponsors, His Grace Balram Kinkar Das Prabhuji and Her Grace Ravati Priya Mataji. And Bhakta Daksh on the for the pleasure of the Lordships, seeking blessings from the devotees and the Lordships. And co-sponsored by our Muni Chandran Prabhu and Krishnabal Mataji.